The keto diet for diabetics? Can this restrictive diet be used by us diabetics safely and for life? What are the true ramifications and limits of this diet? Now, are there better ways to control both insulin and blood sugars without going to such extremes? As an added bonus, I will discuss my diet today. And 1, how it compares to the ketogenic diet. 2, how it also can easily keep your A1Cs in the low 5s. And at the same time, feeling energetic, strong, and vibrant throughout the day. But before we begin, let me welcome all those new resilient diabetics out there. This is where we turn ordinary struggling diabetics into extraordinary, well-controlled diabetics. If you don't know who I am, and you are new, my name is Jay Sampat, and I am an insulin-dependent diabetic diagnosed a little over 5 years ago, so the proud owner of a pancreas that seems to have gone on a permanent and lifelong vacation. So not only am I diabetic like you, where we'll be walking that walk and talking that talk together, but I do also have a University of Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition dietetics, and that does come in very, very, very handy in discussing all the intricacies of being a diabetic. So if you like what you see here today and you want to learn more, I would suggest you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, which is the gray icon, the bell, and of course that like button. That is so you don't miss a second of any of the upcoming episodes that will change your life. The one thing I can say about the ketogenic diet is that it's been around for a very long time. It is gaining in popularity as the go-to diet, but it is still very controversial. Some love it, some stick to it, others hate it. It's obviously not a diet for everyone. But the big selling point these days with a growing number of type 2 diabetics out there is that it helps control blood sugars better than the recommended traditional high-carb diet. And what is recommended today? 6 to 11 servings of whole grains per day, including breads. Now, after consuming the recommended servings of healthy carbs, the experts then instruct the administration of insulin at any time of the day when blood sugars get out of range. It's kind of backwards and dangerous if you ask me. Then you can't figure out why your A1C is in the 8s or greater, and now you're put on even more medications and more insulin. So some of you end up frustrated, so you eventually end up trying the keto diet. Many may not know this, but once upon a time, the keto diet was originally the diabetic diet, as it was prescribed to type 1 diabetic patients before the invention of, guess what, synthetic insulin. And as you would guess, it did prolong the lives as it had a less impact on blood sugars. So what exactly is the ketogenic diet? The ketogenic diet is a low-carb diet where you get roughly 5% of your daily calories from carbohydrates. By restricting your carbohydrate intake so severely, you will force your body to start getting most of its energy from fats. The byproduct of fat utilization is the production of natural ketones, hence the name of the diet. To follow the diet, you're looking at approximately the split in daily calorie intake like this. 75 to 85% of your intake will be from fats, about 10 to 20% from protein, and about 5%, which is around 20 to 50 grams, from carbohydrates. The premise of the ketogenic diet and diabetes is pretty simple. Fewer carbs require less insulin, and that should result in fewer blood sugar spikes. Fewer blood sugar spikes thus leads to better A1C values. So we now know why carbs are so low. Now, what about protein? Why is that limited? Because under these circumstances, this is where the body will actually create sugars from the protein in a process called gluconeogenesis. Now, what are the reasons a person with diabetes would want to follow the ketogenic diet? Number 1, to reduce insulin requirements and avoid the daily blood sugar fluctuations. There have been a multitude of type 2 diabetics taking heavy amounts of insulin who have been able to completely eliminate their insulin use and also improve their blood sugar control on this diet. It works. There's no question about that. Number 2, It aids in weight management, weight loss. You will drop some significant weight initially on this diet because you eat fewer carbs, which means you'll have fewer or less glycogen stores. Glycogen is another word for sugars that are stored in the muscle. For every molecule of glucose in the muscle, the body will also store water with it too. So less glycogen means less water retained. Less water retained equates to less body weight. Just don't mistake lost water weight for fat loss initially, but fat loss will come. So this is where things can become a little murky. For some, the ketogenic diet can improve insulin sensitivity, further reducing the need for insulin, making blood sugar control easier. But there are also a significant number of people who experience the opposite reaction to the ketogenic diet. Instead of increased insulin sensitivity, they experience a drastic increase in insulin resistance, meaning they need large amounts of insulin even for very small amounts of carbohydrates. I have tried diets similar to the keto, and I find that personally true for me. Higher fat intakes, whether good or bad fats, especially in the presence of insulin, creates massive resistance for me personally. So what about the health markers? You will see a drop in A1C for sure. Every single metabolic risk factor, including weight, blood pressure, blood glucose, HDL, triglycerides, will probably get improved, with two exceptions: your LDL and possibly your cholesterol. Now, even though LDL is increased, the LDL carriers do change in type and size to what's known as the healthier versions. And this is the big debate. Does high LDL and cholesterol in the presence of low blood sugars and insulin, which are the true drivers for inflammation, change the health expectancy? Prior studies definitively show negative ramifications of high cholesterol and LDL, but they also generally revolve around traditional diets that are high in carbohydrate intakes, thus insulin levels. Before we get into the limitations of the diet, I have to discuss two very, very important key terms every diabetic should know. And that is the difference between a micronutrient and a macronutrient. All foods contain micronutrients and macronutrients, which provide the body with the tools it needs to function optimally. Macronutrients are nutrients that are needed in large amounts by the human body. They include carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These nutrients provide energy for your body in the form of calories. Micronutrients are nutrients needed in trace amounts by the human body for normal growth, repair, recovery, and development. These include vitamins, trace elements, phytochemicals, minerals, antioxidants, and even fatty acids. Micronutrients help slow down that aging process, protects your body from disease, and ensure that nearly every system in your body functions properly and optimally. Micronutrients do not provide energy like macronutrients do, so they cannot be measured in calories. Second, micronutrients are generally not listed on food nutrition labels, which can make them a little difficult to track. People following the ketogenic diet should be particularly mindful of micronutrients and possible deficiencies and imbalances. This is especially important if that keto diet revolves around one thing: hitting that macronutrient content, and the diet is based around heavily processed, packaged, low nutrient dense based foods. Loading up on the butter and the bacon or other foods with little or no micronutrient value may be that limiting factor, because both animal and refined plant fats are virtually devoid of these very important micronutrients: potassium, calcium, magnesium, folate, vitamin C. It becomes very difficult for a keto dieter to design an intake that is not deficient in one or more of these very essential nutrients. Consequently, the vitamin and mineral deficiencies are not going to be surprising, but rather expected. And if you're thinking, I'll just take a vitamin mineral supplement to resolve the issues, you're in for a big surprise and a bit of a disappointment. And then on the other side of the spectrum, because many keto dieters use highly processed foods, in particular, they may grossly exceed the U.S. recommended sodium intake of 2,300 milligrams per day. Most get twice that amount. But it's not just the cheese that produces the high sodium content. Many keto dieters are also encouraged to consume highly salted, processed meats like bacon, salami, sausages, and even salted butter. For example, here's one of the problems, and we will discuss this quickly, when micronutrients are not quite balanced properly. Dietary potassium and sodium are similar to the kind of Chinese yin and yang philosophy, in which seemingly opposite forces are interconnected and complementary. In human nutrition, dietary potassium and sodium ratio maintains a huge effect on our health and well-being. The higher the potassium to sodium ratio, the healthier we are. The lower the ratio, the greater we are at risk for cardiovascular disease, cancer, osteoporosis, kidney disease, and other pathologies. You will notice these imbalances when they occur, and that will include fatigue, weakness, constant headaches, difficulty concentrating. When potassium is really out of whack, you may get painful muscle cramps, muscle twitching, all the way to heart palpitations. So you may be even aware of your own heartbeat. Why? Because you can feel it. One has to be very mindful of balancing intakes of sodium, processed foods, with very little intake from potassium-rich foods like vegetables that do actually contain carbohydrates. If you are a keto dieter, simply look into those low carbohydrate foods that are high in potassium, such as, I'll give you a few examples, avocados, Swiss chard, and even spinach. So what is my take as both a diabetic and one with a solid educational background in the nutritional sciences? 1, the keto diet does solve one of our major goals we have as diabetics. The keto diet, if followed properly, will have your blood sugars controlled. 2, it will limit the amounts of insulin needed. It's the high amounts of insulin in conjunction to the sugars that's truly causing the inflammation and the damage to the body systems over time. However, I am not in the camp that insulin is the evil hormone either. I do not like extremes. As I have mentioned in the video, does insulin make you fat? Insulin is an incredibly important hormone that, yes, when in excess, creates massive amounts of havoc. But when balanced, ideally, is the hormone of repair, recovery, and growth. So daily life is a breaking down process. For example, when you exercise, your body's actually tearing and ripping itself apart. That is why you're sore. When you're stressed, the body shuttles negative catabolic hormones throughout the body, again, breaking it completely apart. So the body goes through this daily cycle of breaking apart, healing and recovery, and putting itself back together. The more components that continue to break you apart, the faster you age and the worse your health will be. There has to be some repair mechanisms always in place. These repair mechanisms require 2 things. 1, micronutrients. 2, the ability of these micronutrients to get into the cells for repair and recovery. And the hormone that allows this process of opening cell doors so that those key nutrients can be utilized, you guessed it, it's insulin. Just like it shuttles glucose into cells for energy, it does the same for the micronutrients too. It's a balancing equation. So no, I am not afraid of insulin. It is actually needed. Everyone, regardless of the specific diet, should consume a variety of nutrient-dense whole foods and limit their intake of low-nutrient processed foods to avoid sickness, disease, and further weight gain. My goal for me and for you is an A1C of under 5.5. Yeah, that is a very lofty goal. What diet works and works well to allow me to easily keep it in the low 5s? Well, it's kind of a hybrid, if you will, of what the experts recommend, and I'll put that in quotes. I consume carbohydrate foods that are rich in micronutrient profile, but are low in macronutrient profiles, meaning they are very high in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, but are low in calories by weight. Yes, I've said this before, a diet extremely high in green leafy vegetables and cruciferous vegetables. Each vegetable has something special to offer, so eat a variety, since each one individually shines in an area of vitamins and nutrients. This is one of the reasons I require no supplementation of any kind. Now, I do like to keep my fats low, including those quote-unquote heart-healthy fats. Fats, good or bad, create resistance issues for me. Instead of fats in the diet, I prefer to use very lean protein sources instead. Chicken breast, fish, very, very, very lean ground beef, and turkey. Not only will these proteins not require much insulin, if at all, but they will fill you up in conjunction with the vegetables. So you're not hungry all day long, but you'll also get all the necessary vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that the body will need to repair itself, along with minimal amounts of insulin needed to keep you healthy, strong, and energetic. Having roughly 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrate-rich foods, even the high-fiber ones, and then another 15 to 30 grams for snacks can be a grave mistake for many diabetics. And that expert-recommended diet of excessive healthy carbs leaves many diabetics in this vicious death spiral they just cannot break. The last point I'll make about the keto lifestyle is that it has afforded us diabetics with a multitude of new low-carb options and foods to eat. I'm all for it. Leverage those lower-carb foods for greater blood glucose control and enjoyment. I will add a playlist for you. It's called Diabetic Health 8 Episodes. In that playlist, you will find that video, Does Insulin Make You Fat? The Ugly Truth. That video will go into more depth on insulin. And remember, it does far more than just store fat. I'll create a link for you and I'll put it right there. If you're on your desktop or laptop, use your mouse to click that box. If you're on your mobile device, just tap that with your fingers. So have a great day, a productive day, and we'll see you soon with another episode, which I've said before are always released weekly. Bye for now.